Hello, my name is Dr. Crystal Hayes, and I'm honored to be here with my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Lindsey Yates, and soon to be Dr. Adia Louden. We're here to present on mentorship for Black women in academia titled, They Don't See Us, Black Girl Magic, Self-Preservation, and Mentorship in the Academy. This presentation is designed to share a little bit about our journeys as Black women scholars and how we negotiate and navigate predominantly white institutions and what we believe Black women need to thrive and succeed in spaces that were not meant for us. These are solely our own reflections as Black women at historically white institutions, and these thoughts are our own and do not represent any institution that we are affiliated with. We have no disclosures. Next slide. In just a moment, we will individually introduce ourselves, and then I will share a brief affirmation with you all to help situate and ground us in the conversation that is essentially a talk about what it means for Black women to get our needs met in academia. I will talk with you about building networking communities with wisdom. My colleague, Dr. Yates, will share with you her wisdom about branding yourself for success while also making sure to have a contingency plan. And our future colleague, Dr. soon-to-be Ms. Louden, will conclude us with some powerful tips on what it means to do all of these things with grace and self-care. Next slide. Again, my name is Dr. Hayes. I'm a postdoctoral trainee at the Center of Excellence at UNC Chapel Hill. I received my Ph.D. from the University of Connecticut School of Social Work, my MSW degree from Smith College School for Social Work, and my undergraduate degree from Mount Holyoke College. I am also a reproductive justice scholar and advocate. My work centers the sexual and reproductive health and well-being of incarcerated birthing people as a reproductive justice issue. I am particularly interested in these issues at the intersections of race and gender and reproductive health because I believe that the pathway to living in a world free from reproductive violence begins with ending mass incarceration in our society. As a scholar in public health, I also believe in using a balance between qualitative and quantitative science to help tell complicated stories about our social problems. For this reason, I am engaged in additional training in my postdoc program to grow my quantitative knowledge and skills while also honing and strengthening my qualitative skills and training. I approach my work through a Black feminist and anti-oppressive and anti-racist decolonial lens because part of my goal is to challenge oppressive structures that work to maintain and uphold white supremacy and unequal systems. Next slide.
Hello, my name is Dr. Lindsey Yates, and like Dr. Hayes, I am also a postdoctoral trainee at the Center of Excellence in the Department of Maternal Child Health at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I received my PhD from the Department of Health Policy and Management at UNC Chapel Hill, and my master's degree in public health from the University of North Texas Health Science Center. I am a Black woman, a social scientist, mother, spouse, and daughter who's invested in racial health disparities in reproductive health services and women's health. This includes family planning services, perinatal health, postpartum health, and other maternal and child health outcomes. My long-term goal is to conduct research that can be used to promote equitable access to maternal and reproductive health services, addressing racism as a root cause of racial health disparities, and centering reproductive justice as a framework to improve outcomes. As we see high rates of maternal morbidity and mortality and disparities in birth outcomes, understanding these outcomes requires further examination of systemic factors that influence maternal health during and after pregnancy. I use quantitative and qualitative data analysis methods and community engagement methods that help examine various birth outcomes. I'm also invested in using implementation science research to help communities and providers implement thoughtful strategies that help them achieve equitable maternal health outcomes. I'll turn it over to Ms. Adia Louden.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adia Louden. I am a first-year doctoral student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in the Department of Maternal and Child Health. I am also minoring in epidemiology. Outside of the academic space, I call myself a writer, researcher, storyteller, and soul searcher, and I want to leverage quantitative data and the personal narratives of not just Black women, but Black communities to advance equity, harm reduction, and violence outcomes. So prior to this journey, I received my master's from Emory University and my bachelor's degree from Claflin University. My current research interests are in cumulative and structural violent experiences among diverse Black women here in the US, specifically in the South. I am also interested in the cycles of adverse childhood experiences, child maltreatment, and neighborhood violence, and how that impacts violence experiences among Black women, and using mixed methods. So I really hope, and I'm really interested in using reflexive qualitative data or qualitative methods to really advance more equitable approaches in social epidemiology.
Feminist warrior, lesbian, and poet Audre Lorde once said, "We were never meant to survive, so it is better to speak than to be silent." These words are from her powerful poem, Litany for Survival. I'm going to read this poem to you all as a way to not only help us to ground us in Mother Lorde's words, but to also guide us as we embark on our intellectual and collective journeys. The road ahead is not always smooth as we navigate structures and systems of oppression that were never meant for us to survive. I lean into this poem on a pretty regular basis. I actually have a picture of it in my home office. It helps me to release the fear that so often comes with speaking our own truth. This poem has taught me personally that it is okay to be afraid, but that we must move through those fears. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone, for those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways, coming and going, in the hours between dawns, looking inward and outward at once before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures, like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours. For those of us who were imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, for by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hopes to silence us, for all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. And when our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Next slide. As Mother Lorde teaches, it is empowering to move through the world despite any fears that we may feel. One way to overcome our fears is by building an affirming network of mentors who can help us to achieve our goals with the support and leadership that we need so that we can share our gifts and knowledge and wisdom with the world. Next slide. Did you know that Black women make up only 3% of the total number of full-time faculty in the academy? What challenges do you think that may present for Black women seeking mentors? How would you overcome these challenges? What do institutions need to do in order to ensure that Black women have access to the resources and supports that they need when they are so often the only one in their institutions and departments? These are critically important questions that we want you to think about as you move through your careers, but we especially want you to think about these obstacles if you have access to resources and decision-making power at your institution to ensure that Black women are not marginalized, isolated, and alienated. Next slide. This is one of the reasons why mentorship for Black women in academia is so tricky, right? According to scholars Allen and Butler in their 2014 paper titled African American Women Faculty Towards a Model of Co-Ethnic Mentorship in the Academy, women who lack vital mentor-mentee relationships are susceptible to a negative cycle that may hinder their advancement and decrease access to the pipeline of promotion and tenure for others. We're few and far between, which makes it difficult, even if not impossible, to find the mentorship that we need. Next slide. But one way to address the fact that Black women are only 3% of full-time faculty in academia is to seek appropriate mentors. Mentorship is generally defined as the guidance provided by a mentor, especially an experienced person in a company or educational institution. Allen and Butler define mentoring as a process by which an individual of superior rank, special achievements, and prestige instructs, counsels, guides, and facilitates the intellectual or career development of a junior faculty member. It is well understood that achieving any form of career success requires robust, healthy, and substantive mentorship. When you look at people, particularly in academia, who enjoy career satisfaction, longevity, and who achieve and produce at a very high level, they almost always have benefited from models and people who were interested in generously mentoring them. Mentorship is crucial. It is crucial for the pipeline. It is crucial for research. It is crucial for building the world that is equitable and just and humane for all. Next slide. For this reason, we all have to make a set of choices that will allow us to succeed and find our way. At the same time, I don't want you to forget what Professor Nicole Hannah-Jones taught us last year or the year before about staying in places where we are not loved, staying in places where we are not respected, and staying in places where we are not welcomed. Doing so is so crushing. But I don't think that we have to do that. We have options and we are empowered, right? So we want you to remember that you are empowered and you have options. In this way, finding mentorship early is crucial and can be important. It can be an important intervention. For example, when I applied to my PhD program, I had a Black woman senior scholar mentor who provided me with invaluable support throughout my journey as not just a PhD student, but even now as a postdoc. Dr. Bullock, my mentor, has been with me from the very beginning, providing me with support, guidance, and crucial career advice along the way, answering questions that I may have been confused about as a first-generation scholar. So when you're thinking about the kind of mentorship support that you need, when you're thinking about the resources that you need access to in order to succeed in your respective careers, we want you to be thinking about a few questions. What do you have in common with a potential mentor? Do you believe that your potential mentor has your best interest at heart? Does the mentor have a set of skills and knowledge that can help to advance you and your career goals? Do they use their power for good? Do they have a track record of mentoring Black women junior faculty through the tenure and promotion rank? And do they have the kind of career that you desire? As you move through this journey, do not do it alone. Find your squad of mentors who will advise and support you. And I just want to repeat again, do not do it alone. Now I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Lindsey Yates, who will teach us how to create our own personal brand. Branding is not only about how we present ourselves to the world, but branding, professional branding, can also help to attract the kind of mentors that we want and deserve. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Crystal. As Dr. Hayes mentioned, in addition to developing networks of support and collaboration within and beyond the academy, it is also important that we talk about the revolutionary act of building a personal or professional brand. Many of our mentors and even some of our peers and colleagues have created personal or professional brands, allowing them to center their expertise on various subjects. Other academics and professional organizations that cater to and support folks in the academy would also agree that building a personal brand is an important focus for people in the academy. A personal brand is simply how the world sees you. Next slide. Thank you. A personal brand is simply how the world sees you. It is the focused, intentional, and creative process of defining your work and your legacy. The creation of a personal brand offers academics the opportunity, as Audre Lorde would encourage, to define ourselves for ourselves instead of being defined by others. It is not necessarily a thing that you create at one time in one setting, but it's cultivated and developed over time with support from your colleagues, from your mentors, from professional coaches, or even staff and other resources available through your institution or other professional development organizations. Next slide. So why are we characterizing personal or professional branding as a form of self-care? Why is it a revolutionary act for women of color in the academy? Personal branding offers us the opportunity to center our research or writing interest. It offers us the opportunity to talk about our work. This is empowering. Often we rely on our institutions or other networks or mechanisms to market and announce our own achievements. But personal branding allows you to toot your own horn and acknowledge your own expertise. There are times when the contributions of women of color have made to their respective fields has gone either unnoticed, is improperly attributed to other people, or is not attributed to anyone at all and just shows up in the work. By creating our own brands, it gives us some power over what is said about us, including the work that we do. Personal brands also speak for you. Sometimes your brand will enter a room that you don't have the opportunity to go into just yet. When a person can Google you and have multiple ways of engaging with your work and research interest, it gives them an opportunity to connect with you and build relationships or other opportunities that might be harder to come by without a brand. It's not to say that these relationships or funding opportunities wouldn't come if you didn't have a personal brand. It's just to say that the brand makes it a little easier. As your brand grows, then you have power to decide which opportunities or which relationships are most important to you and which you choose to walk away from. Next slide, please. So how do we go about building a personal brand? What does that look like for women of color in the academy? When we were seeking out references and trying to better understand what it actually means to build a personal brand, we came across a number of articles that were offering 3-step, 4-step, 5-step, even 10-step list of instructions for how to build a brand. Looking over many of these resources, we condense that information into these key points. First, when thinking about building a brand, make sure you spend time first thinking about what you want to say, what you want to be known for, how you want to be seen. You have the opportunity to craft that message before you post anything anywhere. You can start by doing some personal reflection, like reviewing and updating your CV, and thinking about the topics that you enjoy thinking about most or speaking about most. You also want to make sure that in your branding, you stay true to yourself. You don't have to be fake or phony, but it is actually more powerful for you to be authentic and genuine. You can make decisions about how much of yourself you want to share in your brand, but what you share should always be rooted in who you are. Showing up as yourself is such a powerful form of self-care and gives others permission to show up as themselves as well. Lastly, there are many tools that you can use to build a brand. Use the tools that are most comfortable to you. And if you decide to, you can always add on to the existing arsenal of tools that you have in your kit. For example, if you really like Facebook, then sis, keep working with Facebook. Build your brand using Facebook. And when you have better capacity or more support, you can decide to extend your brand to other platforms. Remember that taking time for personal branding is key to helping you build your research portfolio and other professional development relationships that might be important for you. I will now turn it over to Ms. Adia Louden to talk about self-care techniques and things that sometimes get in the way of us prioritizing our own selves.
Thank you, Dr. Yates. Hello, everyone watching. My name again is Adia Louden, and I'm going to wrap up this presentation discussing self-care, affirmations, and overcoming devaluation in academia. So when you think about self-care in academia, what do you think about? What is the first thing that comes to mind? When I think about self-care, I think about how all around the world, the stories of struggling academics, especially Black academics, are endless. And I'm saying, seeing, and experiencing that just as a first-year student. So then what do we end up with then? Substance use, depression, failed relationships, failed families, chronic illnesses, and ultimately overworked, underpaid, and exhausted Black girl scholars. Today, I'd like to challenge that narrative, and I'd like to challenge it with 3 R's that I've come up with that have helped me and is still helping me on my ongoing journey, as early as it is, and that I'm confident will serve to help all of us as we continue to preserve our magic. So the first R that's up is rest. And I know that this has become somewhat of a buzzword, but hear me when I say that rest is the most radical thing that you can do, not only as a Black woman, but especially as a Black woman in academia. So what does that look like? That looks like setting a nightly routine to ensure you get enough sleep, planning and eating balanced meals, making time to move at least a couple to 3 days each week, drinking enough water and minding your businesses, and remembering you're a plant too, so you need some sun. The second R is reflect. So reflection should essentially be a central feature of your everyday life, even if it is just for a few minutes. So whether it is 5 minutes of sitting in silence, or 5 minutes in the shower, or 5 minutes journaling, reflection truly serves as a function of not only validating and affirming your very existence in the academic space, but also exploring who you are at this moment. We are constantly evolving. You're not the same as you was last year or even yesterday. So who you are in this moment, what you want to be, what you like, and where you want to go. And then the best for last, the last R is resist. As Black women, we have been historically programmed in a way, right, to take on the world, to put on our capes and load every burden, task, and obstacles on our backs to carry. But you get to decolonialize that mindset. You get to shift into learning what ease feels like and choosing peace and stillness over chaos and busyness. In this space, that looks a lot like setting boundaries around when you're going to work, when you're not going to work, when you're going to respond to emails, when you're not going to respond to emails, and pursuing hobbies, not just research, that truly lights your soul on fire. So now that we've discussed resting, reflecting, and resisting academia, what do you do to overcome the devaluation and historical exclusion that comes with it when met with these ingrained institutional barriers at that prompt feelings of doubt and thinking you are unworthy of your accomplishments? What comes next? So the truth of the matter is, the higher we climb, the more that these feelings will come up. Not because they're true, but because despite what the world will lead us to believe, we're human too. So nonetheless, these feelings can be very uncomfortable, but knowing how to deal with them is your key to unlocking how to control them and not it being the other way around and them controlling you. So I'll start with this quote before I jump into strategies, and that's just to remember that they hate your brilliance, they hate your beauty, they hate us, but we're not gonna hate ourselves. So in overcoming devaluation, the first thing to consider is to simply acknowledge that that feeling is there, those voices, which is essentially your inner critic. So remember what I said before about we are human, you are human. So this means that your very existence comes and includes emotion. So acknowledge what is coming up for you. Acknowledge that this journey is indeed hard. It's going to be hard. It may always be hard. And while uneasy, invite that critic in. Say hello, let it stay for a while, and then bid it farewell. Next, and this is definitely easier said than done because we've been taught to remain humble, but we have to accept compliments and criticism with grace and simple thank yous. There is no need to reject compliments, especially when you're more than deserving of them. There is no need to get defensive. All you need is grace and thank you. Next, it's important to avoid comparison, as comparison can be the biggest thief of your success. Now, this one can be tricky because we are in the academic space, so we are surrounded by academics, intellectuals, and so many brilliant minds, but then also the Black girl magic around us. So I want you to remember that when you are networking and meeting other Black girl scholars, remember your sister is not your enemy or your competition, because there's something that she has that, to be quite transparent, you don't, and you won't ever have, because that's hers. But there's something that you have that she won't ever have either, because that's yours. So I'll also plug in here that since we do live in this world where media is so ever present and we are always and constantly consuming things right now, you might find it helpful to just think about the impact of media on your feelings of comparison as they come up, and if it's in your best interest to set boundaries around your media use and limiting it. So then lastly, ask for help. Next to rest, this has been the most important part and the most important lesson of my journey so far as I prepared to end my first year. Asking for help has been tremendous, and being in sisterhood, because when no one else sees us, we can see each other. And I think that I can really attest to that and offer so much gratitude while I'm here for Dr. Yates and Dr. Hayes, especially being at this school with me. And you can't shy away from building community, especially when it can be one of the very things that helps to support you and get you through. You have to put yourself out there, find the other people, or find your tribe among the other Black girl scholars. Because whether you're feeling down, unworthy, or all of the things, you'd be surprised just how much sisterhood can not only bring affirmation, but also love and healing. So these can be people who are maybe enduring academia's violence too, or maybe these are people outside of academia who have already been there, already done that, and can be honest about you in your work, honest about you as a Black woman, you as a human being, and can discuss the challenges and obstacles that you're facing. So now I'm going to wrap this up with talking briefly about affirmations in the academy. So I have some here to just use as examples to hopefully get you thinking through and hopefully creating your own. So affirmations are statements that assert something exists or is true. When you use such statements, even if you don't believe it yet, I like to think it's like putting out these positive intentions into the universe so you can get something back. So you're essentially asserting these positive beliefs that are meaningful to you, because everyone's affirmations are going to be different depending on where they are in their journey and their current version of themselves. So whether you commit to saying a few in the morning before you start your day, or writing a couple down and making it plain, there are no risks really in using and saying affirmations, only benefits. And the chances are you'll begin to see a major improvement in your overall mindset, how you feel about yourself, and how you show up as your best version of a Black woman each day in the world and in academia. So I'm a huge fan of hip hop and rap music, and we have a prophet right now whose name is J. Cole. And he has a song where he says that there's beauty in the struggle. So if you're watching this, I want to say that the real glow up isn't ever going to be external. The real glow up and the real struggle happens when you learn to love and accept yourself just as you are right now. And this includes also accepting what you're capable of each day and knowing your limits. So remember, it is okay to rest. It is okay to say and affirm that life in academia is hard. And it's definitely okay to be angry when the going gets tough. So I encourage you, here's a suggested activity, to make an affirmation jar. Really simple. All you need is a jar, a pen, and some sticky notes. You do some self-reflection and create your own affirmations. Plop them in the jar and then pull one each day, or pull a couple. And I guarantee you that this would be a good start to implementing and being intentional about your own self-care and self-love practice. So it has been a pleasure to present to you all who are watching this, and I look forward to connecting with some of you at the conference. I am going to pass the virtual mic back over to Dr. Yates.
Thank you, Adia. As we wrap up, we just wanted to share a few quick and final thoughts with you all about what we've shared today. We hope that the tips and perspective that we've given you as postdocs and as doctoral students offer some additional tools that you can use as you create your self-care practice. Learning to prioritize self-care has become particularly important as we continue to endure all of the multiple stressors that are brought on by the pandemic. But we know that self-care can be hard. Making yourself a consistent priority can feel unattainable. Saying no, which is a complete sentence and is important to self-care, can feel selfish. This is especially true if you're managing multiple competing priorities, which is the norm in academia. Maybe you're working on several grants, you're editing multiple manuscripts, you're teaching classes, you're participating in other service activities, you're studying. That doesn't even include the things that you might do outside of your professional life, like balancing, caring for yourself, for young children or for elderly adults, supporting spouses or partners, friends and family, investing in a retirement fund. Sis, we understand how hard this can be. We struggle with it as well, but we also know that it's important to be intentional about creating space for ourselves every day. Your self-care practice does not have to look the same every day. As your responsibilities grow and as your reach expands, it may become even more difficult to carve out time to focus on yourself, but strive for it. Even if it's 5 minutes, saying some of the affirmations that Adia suggested, or doing some deep breathing as part of your moment of rest, take time for yourself. As you're learning to prioritize self-care, make sure you give yourself some grace. Sometimes you'll do self-care better than other days. And our last slide, or few sets of slides. We also just wanted to say thank you so much for taking time to view and listen to this presentation. We don't take it lightly that you spent time listening to our experiences and hearing our perspectives. Just a few quick things. We do have an evaluation that we would ask you to complete. It's only a few questions. The link is available under this video. And at the end of the evaluation, you have the option to enter a drawing for a self-care basket full of some of our favorite go-to goodies. You also have the option to leave your contact information for us to follow up with you at a later time about participating in a potential research study. In the original planning of this session, we really wanted it to be interactive, to learn from and hear from one another as a safe and brave space for sharing. Although this session is asynchronous, you still have the option to engage with each other and the content that we've discussed. We want you to share your experiences and expertise about self-care with the larger community of faculty women of color. Go to our Jamboard page. The link is also below this video to post any insights you would like to share or questions that you have. We'll share any additional resources or advice gained through this Jamboard with the conference officials so it can be made available to all conference attendees. Again, from Adia, Crystal, and myself, we say thank you so much for your time. We have several additional resources that are available on this presentation. We will try our best to make sure that the presentation materials are available. These include things like the resources listed include things like podcasts, books, websites that you can go to and access that we have also used as we're thinking about and creating our self-care practice. So thank you so much. We look forward to meeting you and interacting with you at the conference. Be well.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you.